Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups and situationships. And today we're going to get into a topic that I think is very valuable. This is something that you can just let roll in the background while you're driving, like a podcast, even though it's a live stream. Relationships with social media and the actual value of comments, emojis, and likes. This is actually a very vital thing to talk about. This is highly useful in 2023. There's a lot of dating books and dating information out there that is pre-Tinder, pre-dating app, pre-internet explosion. And some of those things are still valuable, but obviously they're not taking into account some things that are going on now. So what I want to talk about today is, how does social media mess with you? Okay. I also am going to discuss today, or maybe last night when I was asleep, a comment came into my channel. I have a lot of videos on this YouTube channel talking about breakups and different situations, and I've actually reviewed Corey Wayne's book probably multiple times on this channel. Okay. So Corey Wayne's book, The 3% Man. And it's one of those things. You know, Corey Wayne is a junior legend on YouTube, has a lot of followers and subscribers, and a lot of people that read his book. So the last review of the book I gave, one of the things, which was my opinion, was the idea that it's called 3% Man. So my take on that was I just don't care for the title that much. Does that mean I don't like the book? No, I think the book gives simplistic, good, solid advice. It's useful. It's helpful. I would recommend it for a lot of men. I certainly wouldn't say don't read it. But that was just an opinion thing. 3% men. 3% of, I know he explains that 3% of the population, only 3% of men, but there's no statistic on that. There's no way of measuring that. And there's a lot of these out there today. And this is not just Corey Wayne. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not one of those people that you have to have stats for everything. But my point was, I'm giving you my review and also my opinion, right? So in my opinion, the title, How to Be a 3% Man, is one of those things of what, I mean, if you just tell me only 3% of men have these qualities, there's nothing to back that up. I could say that only 2% had it, only 5%. Not a big issue. I just think if the title was a little bit more self-explanatory or different, I would like it. That's all. One of the other things I mentioned in this book review was purpose. So if you've self-improvement world, dating books, what have you, I mean, they just hammer this, be on your purpose, be on your purpose. And I'm like, okay. I've literally talked to people that are highly successful, doing really well, and they're like, what does that mean? This is a concept or a way of pairing words that isn't something that's been out for 4 years, because people just were on various purposes. And I think sometimes people need to elaborate on what it means to be like, does your purpose have to be your career? I don't think so. I think there's plenty of people out there I've met in the world that if they have kids, they'll say their purpose for working, for living, is the kid or children. There's plenty, and has nothing to do with their job. Their job supports the fact that they're putting their kid number one. So I think your purpose in your life can be different in different times, and I think you can have multiple purposes. And so my point on that is, when you just need to be on your purpose, I think that point just needs to be elaborated in a lot of books a little bit more. I don't think it's self-explanatory. I don't think in 2023 that people just have one purpose for the rest of their life like grandma and grandpa had. You know, grandma and grandpa, and when I say grandma and grandpa from my generations, we're talking about people that are born in the 1920s, 1930s, people that hit their stride 1950s, it was a different time. So their purpose could have been, you know, like my grandfather driving a truck for the next 40 years. Okay. And taking care of his family. Those are two kind of separate purposes. And so I would just like sometimes more of a deep dive on the whole purpose concept, because I think some people are like, oh, I just get that, and they interpret it in their own way. But I also think it gets it gets left for interpretation, and some people don't interpret things on their own. Okay. And so that's my point about the whole purpose, be on your purpose. So the reason why I was motivated to make this live stream today, because of this comment that came in on one of my videos, and usually I don't give the comments a lot of traction on a live stream unless I think it's pertinent and it's useful. So, you know, a lot of people out there say, oh, I'd like to start a YouTube channel, or I'd like to start building something online, maybe a coaching career or something like that. And you start with YouTube and these things. And some people are worried. I've talked to like, well, if I do YouTube, the people that are critiquing me, you know, over 5 or 6 years of doing this, you get some nasty comments and people don't like your material or videos sometimes, or just the way you look. But it's not that bad. Okay. Kyle, I just sent you an email. Great to hear from you, bud. It's not that bad. And actually, I'm glad you're on today, Kyle, because you'll get a lot out of this. And I would love your opinion on it. And this is an opinion-based live stream. Okay. So I don't have all the answers to all this stuff. Okay. I'm just giving you my opinion. And I think what gets lost, if you ask me what I learned from getting a bachelor's degree in history, and some people are like, oh, history, what does that do? We won't even get into that. We'll just say that I went to college, went to a university, did all the stuff, jumped through all the hoops, and got my degree. Okay. And if you don't know, if you haven't been to university before, there's something called general ed. I don't know what they call it in other countries or what have you, but the first 2 years of your degrees actually has nothing to do with your degree. It's just the general classes you need to pass, and then you go into your degree a lot of times. Depends on the university, but stay with me. A lot of times someone's like, oh, I have a degree in molecular engineering. Oh, I have a degree in, you know, science. I have a degree in this, whatever. We never ask, what was your GPA? That would tell you how, I don't know, how the school measured you. We never ask, what's the number one thing you learned? Because a lot of times I guarantee it's not going to be some equation, some scientific equation. It's not going to be some smart, intelligent answer. It's probably going to be something more simplistic than you think. And for me personally, being a history major, but I was in a sociology class, and one professor, I'll never forget it. He was like, everything's an opinion. You got to understand that. And what most of the world goes through is, my opinions are the reality for other people. But your life wasn't lived by them, and their life wasn't lived by you. And so the opportunities, the tough times that you had that you are imposing on everyone else with your opinion actually doesn't count as strong as it does for you, because that opinion fits you down to the boots. It's a tailor-made opinion. So you just think, yeah, and this, and this. And then when you go into, this is my life, this is what I think, now I know it's really your opinion. There's no practicality to it. There's no reason or logic. It's about you. Okay? And so I'm going to share that comment in a moment just to break down how this works. But before I get into that, let me go through the bullet points really quick. How does social media mess with you? Okay. And I'm talking about if you're the one to make social, and by the way, YouTube social media, it's interactive with comments and likes. Okay. It's a different style than Instagram or TikTok or these things, but you're interacting with people you don't know with comments. It's a form of social media, and it's actually arguably the biggest social media platform on the internet is YouTube. Okay. Now you can check some stats or combat me on that. I'm not sure, but it's top 3. Okay. So number 1, people assume too much. You watch someone's 10-minute video, they make a point, and then you're like, oh, you're just, and then when they take some shot at you that they know nothing about, that has nothing to do with the comment that you made, it's just an assumption. It's just a stereotype, right? People do this shit all the time. And so if you're going to get into YouTube or some of these platforms, you're going to start your own coaching thing. I've had clients ask about this. This is one of those things you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have a thicker skin, and you're going to have to know when to not engage. Because some people that are throwing grenades, they're little snipers in the lawn, their points are so all over the place that if you get entangled with them, you're going to lose energy. So there's just some people out there, they don't understand that the world doesn't revolve around their life, their values, their understanding of things. And there's probably more over 50% of the population. And if somehow they feel like they've had success, and here's what's really interesting about success, folks, and listen to this for a moment. Whatever society you live in, and by the way, the society and subculture that you live in, wherever you're at in the world, is not speaking for all human beings, man and women. This is another thing people do. Well, in my opinion, men and women do this. Where you live? Where do you live? And they'll start, well, I live in Miami, Florida. All right, well, it's going to be different in Nebraska. It's going to be different in New Zealand. It's going to be different in England. But you're giving your point of view for all men and women, right? Or when someone goes, oh, this guy was really successful. What made him successful? Oh, he made $10 million starting a jazz cafe. All right. So that measures his success in totality? Well, yeah, in New York, because New York measures how much people make money and jazz is big for me. I can care less about jazzing. Now, for me, I'll give you an example of where someone is regarded highly successful. Steve Jobs. All right, from the outside in, I'm with you. Apple, huge company. All right, I'm with you. He's the CEO. He's the face of the franchise. When he died, people were, in mourning of his legacy of Apple and all these things. Then they made a couple movies about him. I don't know if those movies are completely accurate, but there was two that were, this is supposed to be his life story. Now, if you watch those movies, two things stand out to me. Number one, the guy was not an exceedingly happy person. He didn't seem to treat people very well within his sphere of influence. He had a horrible relationship with his daughter. This is what the movies have portrayed to be. That's all. So if that's wrong, fine. But if his legacy post-death is two biographical movies made about him where he's a horrible parent, but he has all the resources. I mean, one thing that stood out to me was he wasn't going to pay for his daughter's tuition for college as a millionaire. What? So he's successful because the company was successful and he's rich? If that's your spectrum on success, all right. Where did you develop that? Because to me, at the end of the day, this guy had a really bad relationship with his daughter, and this is how the movies portrayed it. I don't know if that would be viewed as success, and that's an opinion. I can look at his life, you could look at his life, and we can all get an opinion off that. Me personally, after watching those, I was like, wow, this guy was frustrated a lot of times. He was highly driven, and he didn't make any of these products by himself. He was great at delegating. He was great at running the company, but he didn't make the computer. He was a part of it, right? So people just assume, oh, he made Apple. Excuse me? Number two, most are making a case, and let's just get back to what I'm talking about, how social media is messing with you. Because this is one of the biggest issues people have post-breakup or when they're trying to date someone, is they're navigating through social media trying to assume things. Oh, she left a like on my Facebook post. There must be hope. Not really. Because there's some people out there that like 100 posts a day. How does social media mess with you? Number two, most are making a case for who they are or how they live, not taking into account others' journeys. So someone gets on a comment, and I'm going to share this comment that I have from my channel in a moment. And they get on a tangent, right? And in this particular case, this guy, and I'm going to say guy because it said his name was Ronnie, watched a review I did on Corey Wayne's 3%, How to Be a 3% Man, and he built a case of why I didn't know what I was talking about. First of all, I've read the book once or twice. I'm just giving you my opinion. It's not right or wrong. There's no, oh, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, this is what I read. This is just my take. This is where I'm coming from. I don't see the validity in calling something a 3% man. But if you do, I'm okay with it. Like I said, if you vibe with it, that's fine. That's just a small thing that bothers me. Now, if you're going to take that personal, what happens is if someone takes it personal and then makes it a vendetta thing where they go after the other person for other things rather than the 3% man comment, now it gets personal. And the reason it gets personal is someone somehow feels because you don't believe what they believe or have their opinion that you're just wrong. It's the equivalent of going to a pizza shop and me saying this is the best pizza I've ever had in my life, and someone else saying this is complete crap, I would never eat it again. Who's right? Someone could go, oh no, let me go in the back and let me check the tomato sauce, let me check the cheese. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like or don't like, it's just an opinion, and it's really a shallow opinion for most, but it's not validated by any facts. And so when someone gets on their high horse and makes a comment, and I've seen this in social media, they get on their high horse and they there's no wrong or right. They're just right. And when they're like that, you got to take a step back and go, oh, wow, this person hasn't evolved a lot as an adult. You don't have to like someone else's opinion, but seek to understand, not to be understood. You don't have to say nice things in the comments. But when you turn it into a, I'm better than you, I know more than you about a book, well, you've told me a lot about yourself. Number 3, snipers taking shots for what exactly? So in the real world, if you had a real sniper for the Navy SEALs or any military group or the FBI, they're going to take someone out that's a problem. Right? A sniper would be used to take out someone that's a problem. And they're taking a hidden point because they don't want to start a war. They don't want to make it bigger than they do. I just want to take out the one person, right? That's what a sniper does. Now, what we have with comments on YouTube, Instagram, and these things, someone makes a comment, then someone comes in with their sniper name, Maverick LO6148, right? They don't even have a name there. They have some, Jones Cat. So they don't even have their name. They don't even have their picture. Sometimes they just have the picture of blue or the sky, right? So what are they taking shots for? A lot of times it's just to make themselves feel validated in their point. This is what this is for. This is starting a conversation. I'm right, you're wrong. But no one really gets anywhere. We can sit here and talk crap about my opinion of the San Francisco 49ers football team and your opinion of them, and you're not a fan, and we'll be at odds all day. There's no real point to it. It's actually, and I've done this, I've made comments a few times, and then you start to engage with people and you go, what am I doing in a snake pit? Because this is just my opinion. I'm happy to agree to disagree. Someone, oh, you don't have the passion. You don't have the passion about it. Yeah, I don't have the passion to explain an opinion that I have based on bias. And all your opinions are biased, myself included. Okay? Now, when you get to a point where someone else has an opinion and you listen and you ask more questions and you find ways to go, well, I don't really agree with that, but I can let it sit there. That's growth. Number 4, do emojis really mean that much? I suppose to some people. I've had this come up again and again with clients. Oh, she left me a heart on my Instagram. instead of liking my post, she leaves a heart every time on my Facebook. Someone just told me that recently. I wouldn't put too much into it. It's extremely passive. It's extremely easy to leave a heart for 10 other guys. And I wrote, it's chum in the water. If you've ever gone fishing before, it's illegal in some areas, but you drop your pole in the water and maybe you have bait on the end of the water. Let's just say worms, right? Old school. And then you throw out a bunch of corn or you throw out a bunch of fish pellets in the water, and that's chum. So you're trying to attract more fish. Think about that for a minute. You're trying to attract more fish, right? So you just throw it out. And then hopefully when you drop your line in the water, this attracts more fish. And like I said, in some areas it's illegal. But that's what a lot of people are doing when they just like your post with a heart, is it's chum in the water. It's like, all right, if I like 10 guys' posts, maybe I'll get validated by 5 of them. Now there's other people out there, they do a heart emoji for their mother, their father, their aunt, their uncle, their friends, everyone. They're heart people. There's no way to measure this. There's no way to measure it, so stop trying. And it's one of those things, you could be right. It could be special if they left you a heart emoji, but it's not worth spending time over or assuming. Ask that individual out, ask them out. You're not going to go, hey, because you sent me the heart emoji, am I special? Come on. There's a lot of people putting a lot of weight in heart emojis these days. A lot. And it means different things to different people. Text messaging has people messed up right now because you can never read tone. At least if someone left a voice message, you could read the tone of what they're saying. Now you just have to assume it. Tone and body language are over 70% of your communication with people. So when you have text without emojis, a lot of it is assuming things. It's the same thing when people make comments. Number 5, do likes mean that much to you? What determines a like for you? So this is especially true not for a YouTube channel, because everyone thinks it affects the algorithm. And I'm one of the few people that doesn't ask for likes too often because I'm annoyed when I watch videos and everyone, oh, like and subscribe the channel, like and subscribe the channel. Do it if you want to. Oh, it helps to re-educate people. Whatever. I don't like it, so I don't say it 10 times. Now, when someone just likes your post and they're a friend of yours or a family member, individuals value social media in different ways. I have friends, they need to take pictures everywhere they go. They need to post them. They're online. They're on those things all the time. And there's other people that could care less about a like. It's nice, but they don't really measure their life like that. So it's different for different people. Well, what happens is when you determine a like as being really special and someone gives you a like that, they're just being nice, or they're just like, oh, that's nice content. Well, then it gets lost in translation. All right, folks, we're back. I hope. Hello. Sorry about that. That was a 5 minute delay. The electric did go out. All right. Let me know if you're back on deck. This is what happens when you go live, right? Trials and tribulations here. So let me get back to this because this is really important. This topic we're going over today. And it's a point to be made. Okay. So let's get back right where I was. So number 6, don't get in a shouting match with invisible people. So this is actually really big, right? So you have in your life people that you talk to at work, people that you hold on a sec. All right. So you have people that you talk to at work, you have friends and family, et cetera, right? These people are not invisible to you. You know them, you work with them, you have neighbors, right? You know them a little bit. People in the comments, a lot of times, you don't know each other. You don't know their background. People are just taking invisible, baseless shots. So when they get into your character, like if someone gets into like, oh, I know you're this. Oh, I know one of the popular ones on comments on social media. Oh, I know you just live in your mother's basement. I've heard people write that. And it's like, what? It's not even it's like a canned response in these comments. And people are throwing, it's like sticks and stones don't hurt my bones. Neither do invisible people. These people are not even using their real names, half of them. Look at Kyle's on here. Justin Brown was on here earlier. These are probably real names, right? So when you get into social media, there's a large portion of people that have burner accounts. They're not even using their real names to make comments. It's one thing if they were making content and doing it in an entertaining way. So they're using a branded name, right? Like Superman or one of those things. But individuals that are taking shots at other individuals in comments, that's okay too, but don't put any weight on it because they're not even standing by their name. They're not even standing by a picture. They're just making random comments to get a load out of you, right? Those who go for the kneecaps, wish them well. You don't want to get in fights with people that go for the kneecaps, that cover their gloves in fucking snake oil. These are the people you're dealing with a lot of times. You're dealing with people like this. And so remember that. As soon as someone, it's like this comment I'm going to read to you guys in Sorry, folks. We got some electrical issues here. Real professional, huh? All right, let me make sure the internet is right. Okay. So, man, frustrating here. So, relationships with social media and actual value of comments. Okay, so let's stay on topic here. Let me see if I can finish this off strong. Kyle, thank you for letting me know you're still on deck. Those of you who go for the kneecaps, wish them well. So if you have comments, you make a comment. I've had this where I made a comment on a post on Instagram a year ago, and you're like, whoa, I'm okay if you don't agree with that. But then they're just going in personal shit. And it's not even true. They just made up a whole narrative of why they hate you because they don't agree with something you said about a book or a quote. I'll give you one example. There's a famous writer. That narrows it down, doesn't it? Bukowski. If you've never heard of Charles Bukowski, you can look him up in your free time. But one thing that's kind of put him back on the map, I suppose, he was an iconic writer, kind of a dirty old man. He's talked about in the first chapter of the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, which is a very popular book now. Okay. So on Instagram, I follow, I guess someone, he's dead and he's been dead a long time, has an Instagram about him and just quotes from his books. Okay. This is a great example. I forgot what the quote was and I wrote an opinion on the quote. Someone immediately commented on my opinion on his quote. This man's dead. He's been dead for, I don't know, 20 years, a long time. You don't know Charles. That's not what he meant by this. You don't understand him. You shouldn't be reading him. Something to that effect. It's like, I'm sorry, do you know him? And would he want you speaking for him? Now, I could have gotten a back and forth on that immediately. So I was like, what makes you the gatekeeper of fucking Charles Bukowski quotes? What qualifies you to translate what he means? And this guy was a total smartass. He was an alcoholic. He had a bad mouth. He wouldn't want some guy coming to his, and I didn't say anything negative about him. My point is, I could have interacted with this individual. I thought it's not even worth my time. I'm not going to get entangled with them. They've already taken a shot at my interpretation skills. What he's told us there is his interpretation against yours seems to have upset him. He should unpack that. It's not just that, it's impulsive. And what people do on Instagram are these things, they don't think before they speak and they just, I'm right, you're wrong. And I think, especially in American culture, and I don't know if this, it's really par for the course to try to embarrass people or put them down. This isn't, I've lived in Thailand for years. I lived in other countries. It's not common in other countries. You don't go out of your way to embarrass people or to take shots at them. I think it's made much easier for social media because like you're a sniper in the grass, right? Like you don't have to put up with that guy or person if you had to meet them in person. So this is one of those things where you can easily get caught up when that comment's made to react. But you need to pause for a minute and go, what am I reacting to? Do I want to argue about this? If this person thinks that I don't know Charles Bukowski, I don't. This is just my opinion of their quote. And the guy's dead. He can't even speak for himself. So these are things that happen a lot, but people get entangled in them. And it's a total waste of time and energy. All right. And so when they go for the kneecaps or they take a personal shot when you just gave an opinion, just tip your cap and move on. The minute you get involved in that, it'll never end because they're thinking it's kind of like this. This is a good way to look at opinions too. How jaded people are. The color red. Okay. If you speak in a different language, the color red is a different word, completely different word. Now, if you go to a different culture, red could mean something different. If you write someone's name in red, it can mean something different in a different country, right? When I was a teacher here in Thailand for years and I used red pen, one teacher told me one time, oh, don't write anyone's name in red. You know, when you check mark or something like that, something to do from her background that was bad luck. Never heard of it before. Now, I could have gotten a debate, but I just said, okay, strong belief. I'll leave it alone. I can use a blue pen. This is going on all the time. The problem is with comments, people just think they're right. Number 8, people reveal a lot in their comments. You aren't going to change them. Will they change you? So when they take shots or they try to rustle you up, will it change you? Will it ruin your day? And sometimes this comment I'm going to read you, like, I thought to myself, really, you went that far with this? And what I'd like to ask the individual, for what? Because you don't like me or my opinion, or you were trying to show that you're backing up Corey Wayne. All right, so I'm going to get to the comment that was made, and I'll talk about the video that it was made from. Thanks for staying on, because I did come on at a different time today than I usually do. But this comment that was made, and like I said, this is in regards to Corey Wayne, book review, How to Be a 3% Man. So the comment reads, young man, if you read the book enough to comment, you should know 3%ers are 3% of men who will resist tyranny, men who will stand up for themselves. So if I'm interpreting that correct, Ronnie Wooters 7037 with 23 subscribers, because that's where he stands on here, and his picture isn't very clear. Only 3% of men, which we don't know how that's measured. We don't know where, like, that's of the world, that's of America, and how is it determined that 3% of men resist tyranny and will stand up for themselves and 97% don't? That was my question in the review. It's like the title could be a little bit different in my view, right? It makes you wonder, like, what's 3% man? He's like, nope, it's you resist tyranny and you stand up for yourselves, and there's only 3% of men that do this. So how are we measuring those 3% of men? That's my question. Now, you could take that as like, oh, you're messing with it. There is no measurable. And that's why you'd be frustrated with that. So you could just say a top 3% of men. I don't know. You don't. So going back to the comment, you don't even know the history of your own nation. All right. So what does that entail? What does that entail? How would you know I don't know the history of my own nation? And what would qualify me in Ronnie Wooters' world? What would qualify me to know the history of my nation? And if I'm making a video about Corey Wayne and how to be a 3% man, how is that being conveyed? Where would I pass the test? Like, this guy really knows the history of his nation. Now, the interesting part, are you from my nation? What's the test? Right? Your purpose in life is your career. The thing that makes you go 80 hours a week and straighten your legs and get out of bed after 4 hours of sleep. Okay? So this is what he's saying. So during this review, I mentioned that self-improvement and a lot of books talk about being on your purpose, and I believe in 3% Man, he mentions it quite a few times. What I mentioned is this thing gets hammered and it doesn't get elaborated on what it means. Because I think some guys out there are like, oh, I don't know my purpose right now. I don't know my purpose right now. And someone else out there is like, gotta have your purpose. It seems like it's this word or this action, but I think there could be more put to that in a book. And I believe that your purpose isn't your career necessarily. You're just telling me about your subculture, meaning in your subculture and your place in the world, your career is your purpose. That's not the case for everyone, right? Your purpose could be being in the military. Your purpose could be feeding your kids. And by the way, I think that your purpose could be multiple things at multiple times. So I had a client a while back, and I would just say he was a corporate guy. He worked for some very big companies, big tech companies, heavy hitters, right? And had, great career. And the thing about being corporate sometimes is they switch companies. They go from Google, they go to Facebook, they go to these other companies, and they chop up their career in these different places. Not everyone, but this particular guy. And what will happen with some of these big companies is you get laid off, or the company goes, we don't have the extra money to hire your position anymore. So this is very common in these big corporations, right? So anyhow, he was in this rut, but his mother got sick. Like literally, when I say sick, deathbed sick, right? Like, so he went back to his hometown, which he didn't like his hometown. He didn't like where he came from. He didn't like this. And how many people have that, right? Made a lot of money, was quite successful. Now he's going back to a hometown he didn't really like, that doesn't suit him anymore. But he's going there to take care of his mom, to be there for his mom. Now, when he reached out to me to do some coaching about his ex-girlfriend who he's having problems with, we talked about that. We dug into that. We unpacked that, and we unpacked it some more. But then we started doing some more coaching sessions, and we got into, how much he hated where he was. Fucking hate this place. I never liked it when I grew up here. Okay? But you're there for a reason. You're there for taking care of your mom. That's admirable. That's purpose. That's not a career. That's 2 years of his life. Now, that's a breakdown of purpose that's much different than saying, oh, you got to work 80 hours a week because that's what I did. What? That's my point. When you want to get into purpose, it could be multiple things. Think about that for a minute. How privileged he was to spend the last 2 years with his mother and be there for her, and it wasn't comfortable for him. And he was out of a job. He was in an uncomfortable place. He was low on money. Everything was caving in. But guess what? If he made his purpose to be with his mom for her last couple of years and visit her every week at the convalescent home, I think that's a pretty good purpose. And I also don't think that's a lifelong purpose. I think that could be a 2-year thing. Hey, I'm going to be there for my mom if I can be. Does that make sense? Or am I crazy? Does that make sense that that could be a purpose for a short period of time that doesn't serve success? That you're not going to share on an IG post and go, yeah, I'm crushing it. Yeah, I'm going to the gym 15 times a week. Also, I got my side hustle making $1 million a week. Yeah, this guy's on his purpose. Really? Could be, if that's what he measures the world by. You see how that was my point. We go into this whole purpose thing, but we don't allow individuals to be flexible with the purpose because you're hammering them with, like, well, what a real man does that's on his purpose is he has a successful entrepreneurial business. I don't know. I think some guy out there that is a gardener, just getting by and takes care of his one daughter, and that's his purpose, picking her up from school. I think that's pretty good. And my point was, it wasn't a bag on Corey Wayne. It wasn't to say his book's bad. And I think this is where this guy got his balls in a tiffy, is that I was taking shots at Corey Wayne. I wasn't. I was doing a book review. I said a lot of the things in the book are good. They're simplistic. They work. If you want to read it 15 times, go ahead. There's a reason to read it that many times. But me questioning the title of 3% Man, I think a lot of people would be like, well, what's that mean? Oh, immediately, that means this. Backed by what is my point? And guess what? If it's not backed by anything, it's fine. It's fine. Be on your purpose. What does that mean? Elaborate. That's my point. Everyone knows what it is to be on your purpose. So let me continue reading this guy's comment. So let me start from the top. Young man, if you read the book enough to comment, you should know 3%ers are the 3% men who will resist tyranny, men who will stand up for themselves. You don't even know the history of your own nation. Your purpose in life is your career. The thing that makes you go 80 hours a week and straighten your legs and get out of bed after a few hours of sleep. When I was 22 years old and 4 years into my career, so he started his career at 18. So he goes straight into him, as if he's a measure for everyone else in the world's purpose. Because guess what? I don't ever want my purpose to be, I don't find it admirable that you're working 80 hours a week with 4 hours of sleep. And wait for it, folks. What's the career that you think I'm going to say? I got 4 on deck on the live stream. What do you think it's going to be that's so goddamn admirable here? This is a hero show, right? When I was 22 years old and 4 years into my career, I led a team of 4 guys and worked full time in, just have a guess, folks, of how impressive this individual is. Have a guess. Bated breath, right? So right off the bat, we have someone that's pushing back on something I said in the video, but then using themselves as an example, which is fine. I use my own life as an example. I'm anecdotal about my clients too. But guess what? It doesn't mean my answer is right. It just means this is my view of it. Now, the difference is when you've had a career or careers or multiple jobs like myself, doesn't mean I'm better than you, but it means I have more perspectives than someone that worked the same job in the same place for 80 years, probably. That could be debated. I'd be happy to debate that. I mean, if we had a show with debates, I'd be happy to debate. Now, what's interesting about this individual's comment is you can just tell by the tone, he's so right. There's not, I mean, let me just break this down for you. And let me use myself as a core example of what it is to be on your purpose, working 80 hours a week and leading a team of 4 from 18 to 22. Is that really true? We'll never know. I guess I'll have to believe you. Are you ready for where he worked? It gets better. So let's start from the your purpose in life is your career. The thing that makes you go 80 hours a week and straighten your legs and get out of the bed after a few hours of sleep. When I was 22 years old and 4 years into my career, I led a team of 4 guys and worked full time. Are you ready, folks? In Europe's biggest nightclub 25 years ago. It gets better. So right off the bat, 25 years ago, you couldn't name the club. That would help, right? You couldn't name the club. You couldn't name the club, but you worked at the top. Europe, not England, not Italy, Europe. So all the countries would have to agree that that's the top club. Would there be some pushback if this was the top club? No, everyone in Europe knew this was the top club. So you're going to go and you're going to get a survey from everyone? How are we going to verify this? Oh, come on, man. We don't verify it. Everyone knew that was the best club in Europe. Shit, why don't we go for the world, man? 25 years ago. Guess we're not going to be able to test that out. You led a team of 4 guys. You didn't own the club, but you led a team of 4 guys doing what? Now, if I was going to be a jerk, if I was going to assume things, if I was going to go for the kneecaps, right? Then I would say, I led a team of 4 guys and worked full time at Europe's biggest nightclub. Have yourself a medal. And what'd you lead the team of 4 guys in? Because you didn't even say what you led them in. You led them in what? Being a waiter, a bouncer, dishwasher. You didn't say you were a manager of the club. I could easily assume, oh yeah, he probably was just this. I'm not going to do that. But there's a lot of interesting spice that you're being generalized about and being generalized in a way that's making you out to be some kind of hero. It gets better too, right? Next part. So let me just read this again. You don't even know the history of your own nation. Your purpose in life is your career, the thing that makes you go 80 hours a week and straighten your legs and get out of bed a few hours of sleep. When I was only 22 years old, and 4 years into my career, I led a team of 4 guys and worked full-time in Europe's biggest nightclub 25 years ago. It gets better, folks. Last October, it's September right now, so can we just say last year, they made a cinematic movie about my story, my purpose, and the nightclub we built. Can we get a name of the movie? I would just like a name of the movie. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying you didn't. And now we have something we built. Okay, so if you're going to drop that they being who? Who's they that made a movie? Last October, they made a cinematic movie about my story, my purpose, and the nightclub we built. So we built a nightclub, but it's my story. Okay. At that time, this is beautiful, folks. This is just beautiful. At that time, I would cancel on my girlfriend's work, and she would drive 25 miles to show up unannounced to bring me food and to check if I was being loyal. This is called purpose. Wow, that's an anecdotal one. The fact that you canceled on your girlfriend, she came to meet you, she was worried that you were possibly cheating. This is called being on your purpose. Okay, I'm with you. It's your purpose. You work at the top nightclub in Europe 25 years ago. That's not named. You worked 80 hours a week, slept 4 hours. You led a team of 4 guys and worked full time. Okay, that's your purpose. That's great. That's great. My point in the book review was maybe people's purposes are not as clear as yours was. Maybe they don't involve canceling on your girlfriend and then feeling like a big shot because she came and brought you food. If that's part of your purpose, have yourself a medal, trophy, and a movie. A movie, right? Don't disrespect Corey Wayne. Okay. I'll get back to that comment in a moment. Read more times and give him credit because nobody will remember you in 20 years. Great close. Great close from the guy that who said I was trying to be remembered in 20 years. But great close. So that's just a kneecap comment. No one will remember you in 20 years. Is that part of my purpose too? So obviously he feels like I disrespected Corey Wayne in some way. I don't know. That particular video, I wore the suit that he wears. I've made multiple comments that I don't agree with everything, but I agree with most things from Corey Wayne. I don't have any disrespect for him. I just question a few things about his book. Now, when someone closes like that, nobody will remember you in 20 years. Can we get the name of the movie? Can we clarify that was the top club 25 years ago? Can we clarify some of these facts about yourself that make you so big and great? And this is one of those cases, well, we know who you are. You're a fucking hotshot, man. What are you doing now? Because this is what's really interesting. 25 years ago when I was on my purpose, what are you doing now? Reading a book about 3% men and how to date 15 times. What are you doing? Is that what you're doing now? And you're going online writing paragraphs about how great you were 25 years ago? Tipping my cap to you, bud. So some of the other comments that came in about this video that's, I don't know, a year or 2 years old. I love this book so much. Reading his book changed me completely for better in my life. I'm just in dating. Bravo to anyone trying to better themselves. We all need to. Read the book over 30 times, more times because it was on Audible, maybe like others, is the fact that Corey is very relatable person to his clients and just gets right to the facts. instead of beating around the bush. He's probably the main reason I'm pursuing life coaching currently. I've always contemplating on it, but after reading all his books over learning his story and strategies, it most definitely gave me the confidence I needed to pursue my true calling, personal development coaching. Cool, man. Right on. That got 6 likes. Tough times to be a man. Glad I'm 60 plus and men are more traditional like me. Most of us end up committed just because we got physical. A very stupid reason, right? I have a young adult son. I try to tell him what a real man should do. It is truly know the woman, have the same objectives, be respectful, trustworthy, honest, be protective, not be a jerk like objectifying women, flirting, gawking when supposedly committed. Know her love language and yours, be open, communicate, and don't fear normal emotions. Plenty more, but number one, don't get physical with someone you wouldn't marry. Universal mistake number one. That's a great piece of advice. Great piece of advice. Wearing exactly what Corey's wearing in his book cover, laugh my ass off. I read it several times. I think it's valuable, but I've been turned off by it because it feels like it's not telling the whole story. I feel like I don't do any of these, but it's still hard to meet women. Authentic. It's pretty much self-adulation by Corey to expect people to read his shit 15 times. LOL. I listened to it once and stopped midway through the second wondering, why the hell am I reading this? Because he said so. Only problem with this book and with CW's teaching is they are outdated since most women say meet men through online dating and social media. I have those books, haven't finished reading it, but was good so far. What I read, you kind of mirrored his outfit of the book cover for kicks or just to happen. Ha ha ha. Right? It's fine, but to think that that you need to read the book 10 or 15 times, no, not really. Maybe in other books. This book needs more substance. Not too bad, but 6 out of 10 for me on this book. So just to give you some, now why did I read all those comments? Right? What the hell happened? We have 2 Kyles on today, huh? Is that I'm just giving you guys a point where someone's got an opinion about something and they're so locked in. This is the biggest problem. It's if you want to know psychology 101, right? People's biggest problem, and once you realize this, it'll set you free. And it'll take you some time. But you're running programs for everything. How you brush your teeth. Your mom, your dad, your auntie, your uncle, they taught you how to brush your teeth when you were young. You're probably doing the same thing, unless someone teaches you different. The way you get ready to take a shower, right? And people do weird things sometimes. I got a friend that every time you have a drink or you're hanging out with him, I don't mean a cocktail or beer or anything. I just mean glass of water. He's got to wipe the table all around. He's got to find a kosher. Someone taught him that. He's always cleaning up. He always has to take the glasses. He's in his 40s. He was taught that as a little kid. Right? That dude is getting in his own way, sounds like. Yeah. So when you, getting back to the comments, right? So masculine energy, Kyle, you have comments that come in and stuff like that. And it's one of those things, like I said, a comment when you're going to get passionate about something or you're upset, when you use your own life as the grandeur of everyone else's journey. When I was 24 years old, I did this, this, and this. Guess what? Newsflash, genius. No one walked your journey. No one had your opportunities. Well, I didn't have any opportunities. Says who? You? I know a guy that's made millions of dollars, highly successful, owns big time property, San Francisco Bay Area. When I say that, I'm just saying that particular area, the property's expensive. Highly successful. Now, if he's in a casual conversation around a mixed group, it's like, oh, I just made it out of nothing. My family was poor. We were eating out of garbage cans. I mean, your classic rags to riches, right? Now, I know where he grew up. It's not a bad area. It's actually $1 million neighborhood 20, 30 years ago. Oh, but that was my grandpa's house. Oh, okay. No problem. Now, the industry he got into, which I'll just say is garmentry or clothing or textiles, right? The industry he got into, that was his grandpa's industry that his grandpa got rich from. Because you go, well, how did you get into it? Oh, I just got like there's a lag in the story because it's always rags to riches. He, when at 20 he made 400 grand and he bought all these places, but no one helped him. Okay, so there's possibility that no one did, but he must have learned something from his grandpa or had one or two contacts from his grandpa. Now, I'm not assuming that, but there's got to be more to that story. You don't just wake up and go, all right, I'm going to go in the garment industry and kill it. My point is, when people are always comparing people to other people, or they go in a comment and they're like, well, this and this, and this is what I did. Great. Have yourself a medal, dude. You maximize your opportunities or you minimize them. But when you go into things and you think you know everything, when someone does a book review, it's an opinion. Now, I go back to this, like I said, if you ask me what I learned in college, that would be number one. Learning the difference between an opinion and a fact. Learning the difference between primary sources and secondary sources. I don't just go, oh, that's true. I might ask some questions, but I wouldn't necessarily say the person's just an idiot and they're not going to be known for 20 years or something like that. So you have this all the time with social media right now. The problem is that there's some people out there that are strong enough to deal with, but there's other people out there that they like getting into these things. Oh, this guy just left me this in the comments. Oh, this. And now you're in sniper fire. You're getting into things. It's invisible people you're dealing with names that aren't their names. And if you take this too serious, it can really affect your life, man. It can really affect your life because you got to get back to like, all right, what am I dealing with in my own life? 24 years ago, I had a nightclub. Says who? You? In my experience, people that had a big past. This is what's interesting about living abroad in a place a lot of people retire. Right? This is big. So it's so interesting. If you've lived in the same area for a long time and you move somewhere new, it's so interesting. It's so interesting. So where I live, there's a lot of guys that come here and women, but mostly guys that retire. Right? And when they retire, when you first meet them, they got to tell you what they did for special. Oh, I ran a news team at BBC. They'll go into it and they want to bring that with them. But the reality is we're all equals, right? Because we're sitting at the same restaurant having a beer. But they don't get to take that person with them, especially if they were a big boss or they made a lot of money. They'll immediately want to give you that information. Like, hey, look, you know who I am, right? Or you know what I did in the past. I don't really care. If it's the first 5 minutes I meet you, I mean, that might sound insensitive. It's like, oh, yeah, have you been? Oh, you live in Thailand? Okay, cool, yeah. Well, I used to be a lawyer in London. Cool, nice. Well, I used to make this much money. It's like, all right, yeah. So what are you doing here now? And there's no checking any of that. I was the best in the world. I was this, I was that. Ignorance is a great word, Kyle, because ignorance is bliss, and ignorance just means you don't know what you don't know. And that's my whole point of this live stream. It wasn't to bash this guy's comment, which it seems like I'm doing. It's to bring to light the fact that people are making comments about things that they think they're 100% right because of their own life experience. It's just ignorant. They're also fighting over opinions. It's the equivalent of saying, oh, that's red. No, it's dark red. No, it's red. No, it's dark red. No, it's dang. No, it's rojo. No, it's this. There's different languages with different terms for those colors. People get into this over and over again, and all they're basing it on is their own experience. A lot of people don't have a whole lot of experience. I usually reply to a lot of the comments that I have, even ones that I don't always agree with. Bro. Man, you're a night owl, huh, Kyle? It's got to be late over there. Red, dark red. People literally argue over this, right? I'll give you another example. So I talked about this in the live stream, and you'll get a kick out of this one, Kyle, and if the other Kyle's on here. So I had a short video a while back about bod count, right? And I said in the video, hey, look, it was a short. I said, regardless if you don't want to answer that question or not, if your boyfriend wants to know, he's not going to let it go. So at some point, you need to have that conversation. How you have that conversation is up to you. But the idea that you don't have to tell them, there's some guys that would want to know and some guys that don't want to know, but you hiding it makes it more suspicious. So it has to be opened up at some point because it's important to him for some reason. Now, if that's something that's a no-go for you, that's fine. But the idea that it's just like, oh, men should never ask, some really care. It's a conversation to have if he really wants to know. There's some guys that get to a certain age, like myself, I probably wouldn't ask. I wouldn't necessarily want to know. There was a time in my life in my 20s, it'd be a big deal. So anyways, in that particular video, I just said that even though you think that you don't have to answer that, if it's your boyfriend and he has an issue with it in your individual relationship, then you got to address it. And you have to figure out how you want to go about it in your own way. So a woman wrote, bad advice. Bad advice. Okay. She writes, body count is private information that will be used against you no matter the number. The real question should be, number one, are you sexually responsible? Number two, when were you last tested? Number three, may I see a printout of those results? Number four, are you currently sexually involved with others? Number five, are you willing to get tested before we become sexually involved? Anything outside of these types of questions is low vibrational and juvenile. Says she. But here's the thing. This is how I respond. Thank you for the detailed take. I always respect someone who isn't going to agree with something that they have an alternative. So you didn't agree with me, but this is what you think. Those are fair questions. Now, what's interesting about those questions, those can be construed in certain ways too. Like it's like, if you're going to go that far, wouldn't you want to tell your body count? If you're hiding it, then it just makes it more elevated. Now it becomes an open loop psychologically, and the person wants to know more. The idea that you can't tell someone, let's say, and by the way, in my opinion, translation, I'm not right or wrong, this is just my opinion. If you're going to have that conversation, you want to lead with test results and being healthy and clean and clear and all that stuff, fine. If the person still wants to know for outside reasons, wouldn't you say, well, I was with 25 people, but here's my test results. Is it going to be used against you by certain people? Probably. Do you have to say something? No, but I'm just giving you my opinion. If you're in a relationship and someone asks you that question, they're not just going to let it go because you decide it's something that you don't talk about. Now you're looking suspicious about it. There might be another way to go about it. And the whole problem is people are so damn rigid. Well, you have to do this, or you don't have to do this, or this is juvenile. It's like, is there another way to go about that? That's my whole coaching thing. Let's find you some choices. Let's find you some alternatives. Let's look at 4 or 5 different things you can do here rather than one. Even when someone's like, so I guess I have to go no contact. I think no contact might be the best for you, but I'll tell you what, you might be able to do this, this, and this. And I might even give you an option that I don't think is the best, but you can put on the table. So then you can make the better option more valuable. Right? If I said, well, call her up right now. Oh, I couldn't call her up right now. I wouldn't know what to say. I'd say stay in no contact, right? Yeah, you're right. We've just given you another option that made the other option more valuable, right? Sometimes people are making these comments. It's like, if you don't agree, well, give me an alternative to do that, rather than, this is what I did with my life and I'm so great, wonderful. There's been a movie made about me. What's the name of the movie? Research studies show. What's the name of the study? How many times have you heard that one? Studies show, research shows. What's the name of the study? The crazy thing about the studies, I'm not saying they're not true. There's guys making whole careers on this. Andrew Huberman, very articulate Stanford professor. He's not doing these studies. He's done studies. He's a doctor. He's got letters on his name. He's going to a medical paper, right? Whatever you want to call it, Nature, these kinds of things that anyone can get access to. And then he's articulating the research back to us. Research and studies show. The studies show this, the studies show that. Okay, there's some value in that. The crazy thing is about relationships. What are you going to study the world? Even if you get 10,000 people in a study, right? You're actually just getting 10,000 people that you're studying in that particular culture and that particular group, unless it's right. A lot of the studies, like, they're not millions of people. Like, in this one study of 5,000 people, 10,000 people, there might be some holes there, folks. So I think studies are good. I think that it's not a tell-all, though, right? Especially, how many of these, if you're still on, Kyle, from Masculine Energy, how many of these have you seen? Studies show that 25% of all married couples are happier and have more sex. How is that measured? I just read that from the Tactical Guide to Women by Sean Smith. Great book. But there's no way that study's done on 300 million plus Americans. That's got to be a small sample size. And how do we measure happiness? How are we measuring they're having more sex? I don't know. Right? People put a lot of weight in that. And that's why when you're having issues, when you're having problems, hire or go to an individual coach or therapist like myself, book a session and talk about your individual problems, your perceptions of those problems, your narratives of those problems, because they're unique. If you keep soaking in content, you'll end up coming up with revelations that have been imposed on you. We need to look at every person individually. We can't give massive relationship breakup coaching advice. I think most people just bullshit. Well, it's extremely easy now to say, oh, studies show, research shows, right? And I'm okay with it. Like I said, and you don't question it when it's like, oh, it's Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford. When he does these breakdowns, they're good. But we could all do the same breakdown and have our own opinion. It's a study that wasn't done by him necessarily, and that's okay. It's like Wim Hof, right? That breathing technique. He didn't invent that. It's called Timo breathing. It's done by monks in Tibet for years. That's not an invention he made. He branded it. It's like someone saying, I got this new candy bar. Someone goes, that's a Kit Kat, man. It's like, no, that's the Mac Cat bar. And it's got a blue wrapper and it's got 20% less sugar. Now it's a Kit Kat bar, dude. I've had them before. It's just rebranding right now. And that's what's happening. That's what's going to be multiplied with breakup advice and coaching. And now it's going to get really thick with ChatGPT. I can't tell you how many other people in the space that are, ChatGPT. It's like, you're just going to be inundated with research and studies show and like it's going to be crazy. I think there will never be more of a time to get direct people to people interaction. I think Masculine Energy, I think you're doing coaching camps, right? You're doing something like that. My point is that get interactive, whether that's in a small group, like a Zoom course, or one-on-one for whatever issues you have. And I think that that'll help a lot of people. If you're the researchy type, and you hold information really well and you take action, then books are good for you. This is what I'm realizing, that the reason why someone like myself and someone else can read the same book on business, and one of us really gets it and the other person, one of it timing, the other thing is what you do with information. So people that take action, like masculine energy, I think that's what he would say about himself. He's an action taker. And a good way to test this, I've said before, is if you ask anyone what would be the way you choose to plan your dream vacation or plan for your dream vacation. If someone said, oh, I'd probably compare prices, I'd go to this website and that website. Someone else would go, I would just book it. That's an action taker. Number 3, the other person says, well, I'll have to think about it. Maybe it'll be the Maldives, maybe Hawaii. I'd have to look at some pictures. And then someone else would go, well, can I take a friend? It's a social person. That actually tells us a lot and how people are motivated to take action. Their first step. I'm the social one. I've come to realize that. I get my energy around people. I'm extremely extroverted. I can hold off on action. But if there's someone doing something with me, whether that's a coach, friend, superior, I'm a socialite. What's really interesting, if you're going to get a team, you want one of each. That's what I'm working towards right now. Mary, I moved to Andalusia, have a sea close to my house. Well, congratulations, Sabina. Man, you guys are late night owls. All right, so let me just review what I was talking about earlier on this little tangent. I got mixed up. The live stream froze twice with electrical issues at my house. How does social media mess with you? Number 1, people assume too much. You read a comment, you get a like, and you think you know, but you don't know. You think you know. I think means I don't know. I know a lot of times means I think I know. The things you know best are about yourself. Number 2, most are making a case for who they are and how they lived, not taking into account others' journeys. This is probably the biggest thing, folks. It's the biggest thing. You'll never be able to fully understand this. If you can understand it a little bit, you'll be more compassionate and empathetic to most people around you. If you could just look at things in a way that you don't always agree with someone's actions, you don't validate them, but you're like, guess what? How they got to taking that action, I will never know because I didn't live their life. Think about that. The great Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., right? One of his song lyrics, his biggest song, I believe it was Juicy. When I was dealing drugs, just trying to feed my daughter. That's a validation that someone's listening to that song. Like, yeah, he was just trying to feed his daughter. But he's selling drugs to other parents. No one looks at that because they go, oh man, like he's validating what he's doing. Like he's got to do that. You also have to think he's painting a picture like he has to do that. Like he has no other choices in the song, in the narrative. The reality is his mom was a school teacher, originally from Jamaica, and she had very high moral values for him. She didn't agree with his music. She didn't agree with what he was saying in his music when she was interviewed. She loves him quite a bit. I've heard her interviewed. She thought a lot of it was quote unquote rubbish, I believe. But my point is that if you can validate someone's actions, it's like, oh, he's selling drugs to feed his daughter. That's a good reason. Not everyone's going to agree with that. You're always doing that with all your actions. Now, what you do when you look at other people's actions online or other people's comments is you're assuming that your idea of the world is superior, when reality is just a different It's just different. You don't know what you don't know. And that's really the sweet spot, because when you get to a point where you deal with a lot of different people and you understand that, I can instantly have a problem with someone and go, well, I know where they're coming from at least, or ask more questions to understand. And if I get to a point where they're hostile or they don't like that, I'll just leave it alone. One of my all-time favorites is when people get into political stuff, especially older guys, Americans. Oh, yeah, I'd vote for this guy. Oh, yeah, I hate this person. So if you were president, what would you do? Well, I'd work on the economy. What would you do? I would work on people getting more. You sound like a politician. I don't know. I don't know the answers, but the idea that you have this view of politics and your idea is superior, it's just an opinion based on your bias. And you're going to choose a politician that suits you the best for your living. Who's right or who's wrong? Number 3, snipers taking shots from what exactly? For what? They're making these comments for what? For what? For entertainment? Sometimes. To make themselves feel bigger? Sometimes. Number 4, do emojis really mean that much? It's chum in the water. Like I said, some people emojis mean a lot, some others don't. The amount of men I've met that think a heart or a like on their comment is significant is unbelievable. You're putting way too much stock in that. It's possible that means that much to someone, but it's also highly possible that you're just another like or heart emoji, and they do that 100 times a day. Okay? Do likes mean that much to you? What determines a like for you? So when I like video, if I like a video, by the way, I think that right now there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there that don't like videos, that don't punch the like button as much on videos, myself included. It takes me a lot. For me personally, if I like a video, it's almost like I have to feel like I know the person. It's not just a random like. Oh, like. If I'm on Instagram, which I just started using a year ago for business purposes, for coaching, or else I wouldn't use it at all. Because I find it time consuming, and I find that it's like a mental drug if you're not careful. You got to be really careful on it. It gets your attention and it keeps you there. I'll like some things that I wouldn't like on YouTube. I don't think about them during, I really like that post. That really meant, I hope they really got the message on that heart. I mean, these are just little icons. They're milliseconds. And this would put it in perspective for you. Something like Instagram, where most people are using their phone and going like this, right? They like or heart you. Next. So how is it significant? Next. Oh, like. Don't like. Next. If they're spending 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, which I would bet in 2023, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone on this live stream, have you noticed in the last year or 2 years, now that COVID's over, that it went from, 50% of a cafe or restaurant being on their phone to about 90%? Have you noticed that? Or am I wrong? I live in paradise. I live on a beach, or near a beach. Let me not exaggerate. I live 5 minutes from a beach. About 2 kilometers, kilometer and a half. There's people here. It's the Andaman Sea. It's absolutely gorgeous. They're all on their phones. Now you're like, oh, you're not on your phone? I listen to Audible on the beach, but I'm not scrolling. Does that make me better? No. It's crack cocaine for 2023. It's an epidemic. Right? So when someone likes your photo or likes your thing, and then they're looking through, 100 posts a day, how can it be special? Unless they DM you and say, wow, I really liked your post. So, the likes and the hearts thing, don't put a lot of stock in that. And you're like, why are you going on about this? I get this question a lot. I get it a lot. Well, she sent me she liked my post with a heart. It's like, dude, you're reaching. Don't get in a shouting match with invisible people. So if you ever come across this, you get pissed off about a comment that's on your social media or anything like that. Don't get in a shouting match with invisible people. It's like you might be thinking, oh, wow, why'd you make this live stream right now? Because I want to make a point about this. It's not about the guy that left the comment. It's about we don't even know each other. Might not even be the same name. So don't get in a shouting match with them. Find an alternative to it. Talk to a friend about it, but don't go into comment for comment. Right? It's like shadow boxing. Those who go for the kneecaps wish them well. If someone goes for the kneecaps or they say something really off the wall, crazy, just don't even get involved with people like that. They're crazy. I've actually witnessed social media violence. So what do I mean by that? Where I live in Thailand, there's some other people that live around here that have popular YouTube channels. I won't say who they are. And they're in different spaces, niches, or a niche, as you say. So they're not even in my zone. But I know them from living around the area, and they have different kinds of channels. I've seen these guys meet up with other guys that had competing channels, and they get in fistfights. I've witnessed it before. I'm like, what's this? Oh, he's Tweety Bird from this channel, and they had these code names, and I don't even know what their channels were about. And one guy got like basically what would be brass knuckles, and they got in a fight. One of the guys beat the hell out of the other ones, and they videoed it. So my point is, when someone goes for the kneecaps or you start to get really crazy on the comments, how far do you want to go? It's like road rage. When I go back to California, I'm aware that road rage is a real thing because we have a lot of traffic there. Everyone's driving a car everywhere. And that's not everywhere in the world. Everyone's on edge a little bit. But the difference is in America, a lot of people got fucking guns, man. You think the whole world's like that? Not really. In the States, you got people all over the place that have machine guns in their cars, right? So you cut someone off or they cut you off and you throw them the bird. It can turn like that. I had it one time, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, even before there wasn't as many guns as there is now. Some guy just locks him up, gets out of the car. He's in a minivan. He's in his 40s. I was in my early 20s. He's ready to roll. And I'm just like, what? You serious? You cut me off. He's like, yeah, but I saw you go like this. And I had just gotten off work. It's a sunny day. I said, hey, man, just get back in your car. It's all right. I was laughing. I was in a good mood. I just got off of work early. I wasn't even in that mode. He was like this. I wasn't scared of him. I wasn't that big a guy or anything. I was just surprised. Like, you really want to get in a fight over this? Right? Makes you think twice. What are we doing here? I don't even know you, man. So those are the kinds of things. Like in that moment, I could have been like, "Oh, you want to go?" It was like I said, he wasn't an intimidating guy. I'm not one to get in fights easy either. But I wasn't I was kind of like, really serious? That being said, I don't know if he's got a gun in the car. You're gonna lock up the brakes in the middle of traffic, jump out of the minivan. When I say minivan, it was one of those old school minivans. It's like, and you're ready to go, and I'm just like, what's this all about? That's someone's got locked in anger issues from something else that has nothing to do with me. Right? You gotta be aware of these kind of people and don't get involved. Take the high road. Now, if he comes and like breaks glass on my window or something, that's a different game. Okay, and the final, people reveal a lot in their comments. You aren't going to change them. Will they change you? So if you get a comment that you don't like, you got to ask yourself, are you going to change their opinion? Like this guy, I'm not going to respond and try to change his opinion of what he said. He's, he ran a nightclub from 18 to 22. He had a movie made about himself, and he ran the biggest nightclub in Europe. Okay, I believe you. I do. I have no reason not to. What you're creating is a superior post of why your opinion's so fucking great. Okay, fine. I don't want to get into, because that's going to take some more time to vet those things. Right? It's not the kind of show I have. But what I would say is, are they going to change you? And also, they're telling you a lot about who they are, right? The guy closes, no one will remember you in 20 years. Wow. What you see in me, you see in you. So whenever someone goes for the kneecaps, they're really going for the kneecaps on themselves. They're not happy with themselves usually. Because people that are extremely happy and successful with themselves, they don't go for the kneecaps. They don't. Because they're like, look, I'm doing really well myself. They're usually extremely bitter people. I accidentally cut some guy off. You don't accidentally cut people off. I'm sorry. And he drove up next to me and realized I was a girl and let me go, I guess. You don't accidentally cut people off. The guy was ready to fight, saw you were a girl, and was sympathetic. Well, there you go. Still, you just got to be careful. I was sleeping and woke up and saw you were wrong. Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I usually don't come on at this time. It's a Sunday. And the spirit moved me. We got the two Kyles on deck, the Justin Brown. Excellent. It's funny, Kyle from Ask Energy, I was thinking of contacting you about something that you came on today. Yes, it was accidental when I realized he was a man, huh? A man can still get mad at a woman, so be careful with those accidental cutoffs. Cut you off. Have any of you out there experienced, obviously not everyone's got a YouTube channel, but experienced YouTube, or, because YouTube, look at it like this, you could make a comment on a video that you didn't make the video and you can get attacked. Or on Instagram, have you been in one of these things? And how do you treat it? Do you go out of your way to avoid it? Do you just ignore it? I mean, doing these live streams for years, every once in a while we get someone that just makes outlandish statements and is just trying to get a rise out of you, just like a disruptive kid would in class trying to get attention. And I was a disruptive kid in class. I know what it's like. And that's what allows these people to do these kinds of things. That being said, this is what makes the comment section interesting, right? Is when people lay down their thoughts and comments. And a lot of times they're just not considering where you're coming from. All right. Well, this is good. I was just going to come on for a brief one. I'm glad that people stuck with it, even though we had a few moments where the electric just went out. That'll get cleaned up in the future. Anyone on deck have any closing questions or anything like that? Go ahead and shoot. I got a few minutes. I'll wrap it up. On Black community YouTube channels, ladies can be angry, so some of them answered on my comment, however, nothing bad. Okay. Notice you said community. That's what's interesting about communities. You got surf communities, you got surf communities, you got hunting communities, you got farming communities. It's like people get really, like I said, Charles Bukowski, who I mentioned earlier, the author, this fan club. I'm not a fanatical fan of Charles Bukowski. I like his writing, especially his poetry. I like that. I like the chapter that was written on him in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I like the fact that he made it in his 50s. He was in the post office for years, living a miserable life, and he finally stuck with writing and made it. And I make a comment about one quote, and someone attacks me for not knowing who he is or what he's writing. And you're like, who do you think you are? The spokesman for Charles Bukowski? Oh, yeah, I know what he means and what he writes. He's been dead for 20 years, dude. Does he want you speaking for him in interpretations? Interpretations of poetry? Everyone thinks they interpret the world the way it's supposed to be interpreted. Right? However, I noticed them being, I mean, there's some styles of content, and I'm not saying this about Black community YouTube channels because that's a broad topic. I don't even know where that would fall under. But there's ones that are more aggressive. There's ones that are more laid back, and that's what they're building. I think a lot of what's getting eyeballs is creating polarization, and that's not about Black community channels. That's just YouTube overall. That seems where it seems like things are headed to channels that are more like Gary Springer, like these Logan Paul types, Andrew Tate. These people are characters, outlandishly talking about real things, but then doing things that are a little bit for the camera, if that makes sense, for the character they're building. And that's where we've gotten, is that YouTube kind of started out where people make home videos showing you how to change your water pipe, or how to create the best carrot cake, or then there were entertaining ones. Now I think you have to, it used to be with YouTube years back, you either have a channel to entertain or you have a channel to teach you something. Those are the two things people go to YouTube for. This is so now I think that teaching things, it's still there, but the entertainment thing's winning. And the extremes people are going to entertain are much higher than they used to be. And what they're doing is, they being some of these people, they're creating narratives or storylines that they're acting like they're devout on. And they're more controversial things, but it just gets views. So for example, I forgot her name, but her channel just blew up. I can't think of her name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But Jake Paul's an example, right? Like he's a boxer. I don't know his channel well, but he also baits people, right? He creates situations. He got a lot of tattoos. Like, these are where a lot of the channels are headed, that are big. They have to create polarization, even if they don't agree with the narrative they're going on. It's a big statement there, Sabina. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of channels now too. There's a lot of stuff. I'm thinking about doing more interviews. That's where I'm headed with this. I'd like to interview some people. I just had a client, and he wouldn't mind me mentioning it because I'm not going to mention his name. And he just sent me the email. And if I do live coaching with anyone, I check in with them once a year or once every 6 months. Hey, how have you been? Just checking in. especially if we've had multiple sessions. And I've said this before, a lot of my clients come back to me for other things besides breakups, about work, about family stuff. And this one really touched me today. So this guy, I've known him for maybe 4 or 5 years, came to me for a breakup originally, and he's been an alcoholic. Now that's not what my channel's about, and that's not what I claim to help people with, but there's a lot of people with this issue or drug issues or things like that, and we'll get into it because it interties with your relationship issues, right? And I kind of have a soft spot for people like that because my father, on and off alcoholic for, I don't know, 50 or 60 years. My sister had issues. I've had other family members. But while I was coaching him, I can't tell him, oh, you just need to quit drinking, because I know it doesn't work that way. I know it doesn't work that way. And I know sometimes it's like, I've had a few clients one time, it's like, you can go through all your issues, like with your girlfriend and what they did wrong, and you think they're cheating, but you're a fucking alcoholic. You told me you have a problem. Before you can change anything, you got to change that so you can have a clear mind and get to baseline to deal with whatever your problems are. It's like the world's tough enough, okay? And problems that come through are problems that are going to come through family, work, whatever. But if you're a full-time alcoholic and that's how you're dealing with your problems, you're never really even putting a dent in things, right? So, cut a long story short, we've had a few coaching sessions in these last few years, and they weren't frustrating because here's the thing. Being that I'm on a Zoom call and you just want to air some stuff out and you're going through a bad time and you're not willing to quit the beer or the alcohol yet, it's still okay because I'm just holding my space. I'm not turning you down. I'm not saying, nah, I'm not giving you any tough love. I'm like, what do you want to talk about today? This guy, he's thinking about going back to school. He's thinking about these things. He has problems with some family members. He just wants to air some shit out, but he's still an alcoholic, and that's problem number one. But he doesn't want to fix that yet. He doesn't want to stop yet. He'll talk about it. He surfaces it. But guess what? Maybe our conversation plants a seed. And the thing about planting seeds when you coach or you do therapy, and I think coaching is different than therapy, and I can't speak for all therapists because they have different styles, where coaching to me is a little bit more interactive. I'm allowed to interject. I'm allowed to make some suggestions. I'm actually allowed to do any style I want because I've made my own style, right? I don't have to just sit and listen. Tell me more. Is that style bad? No. It's just not as interactive. Mine's much more interactive. So when I'm talking to him, even though I know in the shadows, hey, man, his number one problem is to quit drinking. I know he's just not ready. I'm not going to hammer him with that. I'm not going to say, hey, man, I'll never talk to you again until you stop drinking because of what's happened to my family members. No. My job, in my opinion, is to be available when you want to talk to me. Even though you're not ready to quit yet, I'll take an hour or two with you. I don't always agree, but I know that might plant a seed for you that you're getting support even when you're being a fucking jerk, dude. Even when you're being deadbeat. That you can spend an hour or two and just airing shit out and I'm not judging you. All right. Yeah, I'm still drinking a 24 pack of beer, dude. Really? That's how much you drink? Just handling it neutrally. Because I just knew at where he was at, he's not ready. He just needs someone to listen. He's going through some tough things and he can't figure it out yet. So hopefully our talk is significant. So today, when I did my check-in with him, like I said, he wouldn't mind this. Well, first of all, he owed me a little bit of money. He didn't pay for his last session, but I said it was okay. Just pay me when you can because I've known him for years. So he wrote first, hey man, I'm sorry to pay you earlier. It's been a wild year. Many things have happened. I'll get you a payment. Where should I send? I'll get you squared away. So I just said, how you going? How you doing? I'm just checking in. I haven't seen or heard from you in a long time. So he just wrote that. So I said, I'm not sure how much you owe me, but just let me know and I'll send you an invoice via your email. I did have some trouble with my PayPal, so it's not necessarily wasn't you, because he said he had tried to send it through my donations and there was a problem. So I wrote back, I sincerely want to check in with you and see how you're doing. If you wanted to talk this week just to catch up, no charge, you can book a session. So I do that sometimes with my past clients, just to check in. He said, thanks. I appreciate that. I think it was $125. We talked, so I can send that to you now. Shit got crazy this year, but I had a whole lifestyle change, and honestly, life is pretty good right now for the most part. Started drinking really heavy again last year, and last February I had a full-blown seizure and ended up in the hospital for over a week. It was horrible, but it was the wake-up call that they talk about. Been sober ever since, over 7 months now. Physically and mentally, I've never felt better in 9 years. I still don't have all my shit together, but things are really starting to look up finally. And yeah, I'd love to chat with you. I work every night, so I need to figure out a time, but I'll get back to you very soon. That one really touched me because that's the kind of thing that it's just good news, man. I'm glad to hear it. And I never, like I said, when I was talking to him, a younger me would have been like, man, you need to quit drinking, When I'd talk to him, sometimes he'd be drinking beer. Doesn't make it easier for me to help him. But to hear that, and it's amazing because he's right. Sometimes a seizure is what needed to happen. Right? It's what needed to happen. But to hear that from someone that I've known for 4 or 5 years and had this issue for right now, it gave me chills down my spine and made me feel really good. And I'm looking forward to talking to him and catching up. And he hasn't felt good in a long time. And this is where I tell people, when you're dating or in your relationship, it's timing and circumstances. A guy was talking to me today at the cafe. He owns his coffee shop. He's going on and on about how much he liked this girl he wanted to date. When I say girl, she's in her 30s. He's probably in his 40s. And he's talking about how attracted he was and how much he wanted to go out with her. And I said, and he asked her out and he got left on red. He's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I said, well, it could mean a lot of things. Well, I go, the number one thing you didn't do after being left on red, don't pepper her or keep calling her. Most likely she's not interested. And that's okay. And that's attractive to a woman. If she doesn't respond or doesn't want to go out with you or is neutral towards you and you don't press, and when they open up or they might see you as an option later on, they see you as safe and available and okay. And he just can't. I could tell when we were having the conversation, I'm just so attracted to her. It's like, yeah, it's possible she's not attracted to you. Or it's possible she's talking to someone but doesn't have a boyfriend. Like, don't take it personal. You want to ask her out one more time? Go ahead. I just got left on red. It's like, guys do this thing a lot where they have a good interaction with a woman, or maybe even a couple dates on dating apps, maybe even a month. They're really attracted to this woman. And I say attractive because that's what number one for mostly all men. And they can't get it through their head that there's a possibility that the woman's not as attracted to them as they are to the. Now, I'll often tell that guy, well, has there been times where there's been women that like you or have come on to you, and usually they're older or similar age, maybe, and you weren't interested and you had to be cold shoulder? And guys will be like, yeah, I've had to do that before. It's the same thing. You're just thinking like, well, I really like this one. Doesn't mean she needs. That's the thing about relationships or attraction. Doesn't mean she has to like you. And you can read a bunch of dating books. You can do all the things right. And the girl can just not be interested in you. Or it's just bad timing. Just bad, like, just not a good time. And that's where I'm like, someone doesn't want to go out. They're not responsive. Okay. You want to be aggressive. On to the next. Or I got a place to spin. Okay, whatever. But sometimes there isn't a play to make. There isn't a sweet thing to say that'll turn them around. And the funny thing is like this guy was telling me, well, I was just going to tell her, I was just so attracted to you. I thought you were the most beautiful woman I've seen in years. I'm like, don't say that. And he's like, why? And I'm like, she's probably heard it many times before. Just tell her you're interested in going out and you found her attractive. Stop putting extra sauce on top of it. It doesn't give you extra points. There's certain women that would dote over that and feel really good about that, but it's not going to get you it's not going to better you in the date. It's going to put you at more of a situation where you're anxious. That's just my viewpoint. Now, there might be some women on the live stream like, no, let them say that to us. It's like, okay, you don't have to put, you're the most beautiful woman I've seen in years or months. It's like, just made yourself a mark, dude. Like, just you want to go on a date. Have one good date. The date's a discovery mission to see if you like each other. You like each other. And then you go on another date. Then you go on another date. It's another discovery mission. For some reason, especially guys that own businesses or that have a lot of money, they don't get that one. They go, I get date. This could be my girlfriend. She's the one. Because it's a certain mindset. And the minute they start the dating out like that, you put a lot of pressure on the situation. Because you're going 0 to 100. Personality disorders develop more with the use of modern technology. So people live in their own heads. Yeah, you know what's really interesting about personality disorders, bipolar, and I don't know the details of them all. Like there's a guy that was a client of mine. He's married now. Actually, he sent me a really nice email thanking me for being there for him when he was broke. He broke up with his fiance and then got back together. And he gave me some credit for that. And I didn't deserve any credit for it. I was just there for him. I couldn't predict them necessarily getting back together. But I supported him in giving another try. And it ended up working out so far. This guy's like Rain Man. He just retains information and disorders and all those things. So, like bipolar and those kinds of things. It's like, so what did we do before these disorders? Like it wasn't that long ago in the 1800s or 100 years ago that no one would be like bipolar. No one would be called these things. And were they more relevant? I don't know. It's a good question. Wow, Kyle, you rode this whole time, even with the electric outs. Looking forward to our session more than ever. Absolutely, bro. And your email you emailed me today was very timely. Very timely. Very timely. And I did get your appointment, so that's good. Yeah, we got more things to do on this show than just breakups coming up. It's going to evolve a little bit. And I think Fun Swap wants that. A lot of people are super lonely, even though we're the most connected we've ever been. That's you know what? We're connected more than we've ever been, but at what level? At what level? At being able to text and talk? Because I see what you mean. Like, for example, I live in Thailand. My mom lives in California. I can talk to her once a week. I can talk to her once every 3 days. No problem. And I can talk to her for free. Used to be a long distance charge for shit like that, right? So someone like, oh, we're more connected. That's a positive way to look at it. Yeah. But we're all also probably less connected at the high level of living in communities where you're really depending on each other. And I was talking about that, at our highest level, we're social creatures. And even if you don't have family, but you have roommates or you have neighbors that are close, that really helps, man. Because I've had clients that have grooved in to living alone, and they're confident, independent people. They make good money. They got a grasp on things. They're in their 40s or 50s, and they're like, they're okay. I'm just okay with being alone. I'm okay living on my own. That's fine. You don't need to find a significant other like a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wife. I give you an example. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but forgive me if I have, as the live streams can be redundant with some of my stories. But my grandfather, my Irish grandfather, he lost my grandma when they were in their early 60s. My grandpa lived to like 84, 85. He never got remarried, never got another girlfriend. Didn't even think twice. I don't think he ever dated or anything like that. He had a cleaning lady. That was his cleaning lady. When I say cleaning lady, I mean like once every 2 weeks, she'd come clean the house. So whatever you'd call that. I don't know if that's a different term. It's definitely not a maid. And this lady probably was about 10 or 15 years younger than him, but she had been the cleaning lady for them before my Nana died, or my grandmother died. And so she had been around the family for a long time. Anyways, cut a long story short, kept this cleaning lady. And that wasn't his girlfriend, but it was the closest thing to it. Like they would go to lunch sometimes, not often. And one time when I stayed there, and I mentioned this in my grandfather's eulogy, one time when I stayed there at my grandpa's house, he lived alone. He lived alone for the next 25 years, from 60 to 61 to 84, 85. Went to church on Sundays, walked to get his mail. He had some routines. He was stubborn and grumpy, and he missed the hell out of my grandma every day of his life. But he's a tough dude. But anyways, going back to this, I'm staying at his house. I'm getting ready for a jog. And she comes in. I know her. Said hello. Hey, how you doing? And I leave for my jog. I come back, and my grandfather's doing the vacuuming. It's like, this is weird, And he's vacuuming the living room. There's a bottle of vodka on the kitchen counter. And my grandpa at this point had diabetes. So he didn't drink. And I know he never drank vodka. If anything, he's going to drink Jameson or Maker's Mark. He's going to drink a different liquor. I thought that was weird. Well, the vodka was for her. I don't know if she was having a shot or a cocktail. And while my grandpa was vacuuming, she was cleaning. She was cleaning another room, and she came back in. But at that very moment, I realized my grandpa hadn't just hired her to be his cleaning lady. This is his friend. Wasn't his wife, but they were connected, and he wasn't going to sit around and let her clean the house by himself. And they had a connection like that, and they were close. But he wasn't wanting to make her his wife or anything like that, but damn sure could have. But they had that connection. And I think even if you're going to live alone, you need connections outside. We're human. We're human. And how deep those go are up to you. But to isolate, some people can do it, especially introverts. They usually get dogs or cats. Am I right? They usually get a dog or a cat, which is great. Some of there's all these jokes about cat women and all this stuff, whatever. But the sweet spot is usually having a family or a group you live with. And living in a community that you feel safe in and supported. And I think we have a lot of communities now where it's just about, I visited people in the Bay Area. I'm from the Bay Area. The Bay Area changed quite a bit. That make really good money. I mean, really good money by world standards. 100, 200,000 a year. I don't know what it is. You got to make a lot of money in the Bay. And they live in like a good area in an apartment that's nice, where you don't talk to your neighbors. There's not very many windows. It's not a very big place, but it's got a stainless steel fridge. It's got a nice flat screen TV, very comfortable couch. I don't know. These places are like $3 or $4 a month, maybe more, $5 a month. There's no interaction with nature. So you're going to take your dog out to go pee on the cement. And this is what you're living for? Now, I just got this thing about not understanding other people, but to me, I'm glad I found where I live. And it's an evolution for different people. And this is one of those things you don't know what you don't know. But definitely your environment and people you live around count. Your neighborhood counts. And if you look at happy times in your life, look at your neighborhoods, if not your family life, if not your school. Mac, my coaching style has also a holistic approach, so it ain't the typically just men, women, men, dog. Well, good. I think the beautiful thing that's going to happen now is that hopefully, with all the information online now, you can start a coaching practice or a counseling practice on your own with good intentions and honesty and being there for people and maybe even volunteer. And that's how I started my channel, right? I told people to send their breakup stories for free, and I'll just give you my take. That's how I started it. And continue to read about different techniques and different things, and people share everything now. You can do it however you want. And just holding space and being there for people in need is a big deal right now. And it's a need in the world because more people aren't living with their families. And there's just certain walk of culture like, oh, as long as I make money, as long as there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. And if they're looking for someone to talk to and you're able to provide them with that space or that time, it is a privilege. It is a privilege. I've got a friend that's doing the 12-step program for alcoholism right now. He got done with it. He's been in it numerous times. So he's been an alcoholic his whole life. And now he's a sponsee. There's sponsors and sponsees where if someone needs to call because they want to drink or they need someone to talk to, he's got 4 people underneath him as a volunteer for that. That's a beautiful thing. And I've often told people that I've worked with before or made an effort with before for free. Why do you think I'm helping you out or being there for you? It's because you're going to do it for someone else. And that's the biggest thing we can do right now is become the domino. It's really big. Because it takes one person in your life going above and beyond or just being there for you to go, you know what? If that happens for me and I'm on the other end of the seat, I'm going to do it for someone else. That's how everyone does everything. Well, my dad taught me this, my mom taught me that, but then you also taught things that work for you. Yeah, that sauce can be a turn off. Sounds desperate. That's nice having someone older. That's the way retirement homes have company. People love that for that look at big cities. I don't understand how someone can live in NY for years. Some people love New York. I mean, my clients that live in New York, they love New York. They love it. I'm not a big city person. Now, I didn't always know that. I lived in San Francisco briefly, grew up about 20 minutes outside of San Francisco, but living in the city, it was cool. But it's never been a place where I'm like, oh, I really want to get back there. Especially now. There's going to be a premium in the future on nature. Good air, good water. Find those places, folks. They love trauma then. I think people associate cities with as I stutter with narratives, with themes. So New York's a lot of times, money. It's the biggest city in. I mean, and I couldn't judge it because I've never lived there, so I don't know. I don't know how great it is, but I know people that grew up there. They love it. Usually, they love it. And I know people that grew up in Bangkok, which is a metropolis in Asia. I think it's 10 million people plus. And the people that are from there, they love it. They love it. All right, folks, this has been good and grand. Go to rightmac.com if you want to book a live coaching session. I'm glad we got to connect Kyle today. Masculine Energy dropped in. Sabina, always a pleasure. If you want to email me further about that tapping or get together to do some tapping, let me know. I'd be happy to help you with that, especially since you're going into coaching. I think that EFT technique is actually, it's very easy to learn, highly useful. And there's some approaches within that reader that I gave you, Sabina, that we can practice. So if you want to do that, just email me. Kyle, Francois, always a pleasure. The little night owl, Sabina, Petty Betty, who's a little bit quiet in the background today. Rye Flint didn't make it on the weekend. Sounds like she's busy. Rob IS has got a busy weekend too, huh? Thanks for staying with me, folks, because we had some technical difficulties. But it's been a good 2 hours, right? Wish you all the best. It's Curtains.